Can I curse on here?
Yeah. What?
You gotta fuck around and find out. So it's like, just choose a price, charge it, see what happens, and then adjust from there. Because like, it's a work in progress, especially when you're just starting out.
Oh.
What's going on, Pushin Performance family? We got a fun one today. We had Coach Nabil, aka Coach Levon, on IG, just having some fun convo, talking shop, like we would like to in a coffee shop, but we did it on here. But yeah, tell them what we talked about, Phil.
A good friend, number one friend of the show. We got into his thoughts on continued education, and we went back and forth on that. We talked about the similarities and differences between training the general population and working with athletes. We talked about how he's working through and starting his own online coaching business. Then we had a really good conversation on making a lifelong career in the human performance industry. So it was an awesome discussion with Nabil. Again, super fun. We hope you all had as much fun as we had recording it.
All right, let's go.
To our number one friend of the show,
Number one listener,
I would say. Number one listener, number one friend of the show. Actually, you know what? Before we even get into anything that we want to talk about today, we got to know, what's the deal with your super aesthetic podcast listening setup? Because I think more than anything that we post on social media, people love your podcast listening aesthetic on the big
This is
screen.
true. This is true.
What's interesting is like, I think these days most podcasts are also having a video recording of the conversation. It's not just audio, and I think a big part of that is just be able to take clips and spread that across other platforms, social media, more content. But I don't think anyone actually. I I wouldn't be surprised if way less people actually watch the video recordings than just listen to it, through a podcasting app. Um, and I think a big influence of me actually watching you guys up on the screen is that I know you guys. So it feels different to see your faces when you're talking versus just people I don't know, through a random podcast I follow. As far as the setup goes, man, it's, just a big screen TV, got some
Why?
surround sound going.
Why do you have a couch facing away from the TV? That's my question.
So I have two couches. So
Okay.
it's like it's God, I always confuse living room versus family room. I think living room is a room that usually no one ever sits in, and your parents get mad if you stay in the couch because everything's
Okay,
white
that's
in
right.
there, right?
Okay.
So we kind of took, and there's usually two couches facing each other, kind of, for hosting, being able to converse with people. So that's kind of the approach that we took in our apartment, my partner and I. So
Okay.
yeah, and one bedroom apartment. There's only so many places to put a couch, so they're facing each other, and
Okay.
behind one couch is a TV and like a
I was
console and
curious.
stuff.
I
So
was curious. I've never seen that before. But like, I was actually just curious with what you guys think. Like, when you're podcasting, or if you watch people sing on YouTube, like, why can't we just listen to them? Like, what's the difference with watching people talk if literally they're just talking anyway?
Well, there's something to be said about like the facial inflections and like laughing, and like I think things come across a little bit differently. But yeah, like Nabil, like you said, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I don't really watch many podcasts. It's easier just to throw it on and listen. And if you look at big podcasts on, especially in the training space, like any really big podcast, you look at their subscribers on the podcast, you look at their numbers that they do on like a podcast app, and then you look at their numbers that they do on YouTube, it's wildly different. And it's the same for us. Like, our YouTube numbers are just Nabil and probably my boy Jimmy. And we have way more people like actually listening and downloading on podcast apps.
I think other thing I'll add is that I think the visual aspect of the podcast makes it more engaging. So like, where I might be, if I'm just listening to you guys through the headphones, I might be multitasking or listening to you guys while I'm in like a training session. Versus if I have the YouTube video on, I'm sitting down, I'm watching, I'm not doing anything else really.
Yeah.
I'm like fully engaged.
No, that
That
makes
helps me
sense.
a lot.
And I feel the same. I was just curious because I used to watch like covers of songs all the time. Like, why am I watching this? I can just listen to it and do some stuff. But it makes sense. Like, you just want to be engaged.
Dang. All
So
right. Well,
random.
homework for JT this weekend is to watch a podcast on YouTube.
I watch them. I say it. I literally watch all of them. And I was just curious, like, what people think the difference is. But anyway, that's where
Just
my
to
brain
watch
is right now.
one. Watch the one. That's good. I'm glad we got to the bottom of that because again, people are locked into your setup. They love it. They live for it. It's a good. It's the best weekly ritual that we might have ever seen. And
We appreciate it.
I'm looking. We're recording on a Friday morning. I think that's what today is, and I'm looking forward to hopefully tomorrow morning
Mhm.
seeing the weekly ritual, seeing the aesthetic.
Oh, it'll happen. I'm caught up, so it'll happen.
Along those lines, again, like massive friend of the show. You're probably one of the major reasons why this show exists. And you're someone that we both talk to a ton, so we thought it'd be fun to just have a friend of the show episode and bring you on as a reoccurring guest. And one of the things that we both admire about you a ton is the fact that you're so tapped in to the Con Ed side of things. Like you are locked in, trying to get better as a coach, more so probably than any other coach that we work with. So for you, where is that coming from?
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I definitely don't feel that way all the time. Definitely don't feel tapped in all the time. But I don't know, man. I think it just comes from like, I mean, I think for one, just like really being passionate about this field and like, this isn't a side gig for me. This isn't a temporary thing for me. My goal is to be a career long coach. And with that comes the want to be able to solve any problem that comes through the door, right? Whether it's like, you know, outside within scope, whether it's being able to help someone manage or maybe even solve pain all the way up to, increasing someone's vertical or, maybe shave a couple of seconds off their 40-yard dash or, make them faster or even, help someone prep for their first marathon. So I just love training. I love biomechanics. I love human movements. The more I can know about that, you know, the better I feel like I can do my job. And that stuff's just energizing for me too. I know it can be draining sometimes to do Con Ed after Con Ed, and that does happen to me for sure, especially with certain courses I'm doing right now. But for the most part, like it's fun for me to. I look forward to spending the first 4 or 5 hours of my Saturday just sitting in front of my laptop and like grinding through some concepts or like in this case, currently going through a certification or a course.
I love the Saturday morning grind, bro.
Does it ever get to a point where like just too much information?
For sure, for sure. I do my best to not do too many things at once, and then also I try my best. Do I actually do I go pull through with it all the time? No, but I do my best to not do too many things at once, and then I try my also to take time between courses to like
Hmm.
apply what I might have learned, see how it works with myself, with the people I'm working with, and then better get a grasp of whatever the topic or the ideas the course was speaking on before I hop into the next thing. And often, like I'll also go back over the course as well. Like I was going over for a short period of time with Phil, going back over pre-script level one. So it's and those, especially if the course is like 10, 12, 14 weeks, it's not often that you're going to remember everything the first round.
No chance.
Curious to hear what your thoughts too, because I'm sure a lot of coaches are like just information overload. Like,
Mm.
I love learning, just like you, and I'm like sometimes I get to the point where I'm like, I don't care what you're saying right now, bro. I can't take anything in. Like I know it's
Yeah.
important information, but at some point you're like, I gotta stop. Like the inputs could only be done for so long. I'm just wondering if you guys had that point, or if like when that point is and what you do to stop that.
I don't know if you know when it is, right? Like it's gonna be different for everybody, but I know for myself, like similar to Beal, like I mean, I hit that wall, right? I mean, I went through I don't know how many courses and books and stuff last year, like training related concepts, and like I remember pulling up, like someone asked me about a Speedworks course that I did, and it was like their training, their sprint training system. They primarily were track athletes. Then like how do they apply it to team sport? And I was like, I remember liking the course. I couldn't tell you I could tell you a concept from that course in great detail right now. Like I know, like, and sometimes I think courses just solidify things for you. Like if you see the same through line over and over and over and
Yeah.
over again, it's like, oh, ground contact time is probably important for sprinting.
Mm-hmm.
Like cool, everyone's saying that. Like cool. So like it's not all bad, but I'm I always and I never take this advice for myself, and neither does Nabil. But I always tell coaches like, hey, do less but better. And Nabil, I'm pretty sure I said this to you. Like when
Yeah,
you're
literally.
planning your con for this year, I was like, do less but better. And
Mhm.
then we both just didn't do that.
What does
Which
that
again
mean?
isn't a bad thing. So take less courses, like
Okay.
Yeah,
read less books, but like do what Nabil's doing. Like do something, break, apply that thing.
yeah. And I guess in my specific situation, I had a bunch of content money I needed to use, and I was essentially spreading that over like maybe 7 or 8 different things. Each thing, being a little bit lower price. And then instead, what I decided to do was just go for a bigger ticket item, much more in depth, much longer duration of time.
Hmm.
So instead of doing essentially 10 years, 10 things, 10 years, 10 things I was going to do this year, now it's down to like 4 that I plan on doing because
Yeah.
I consolidated into like one big kind of ticket item, which is a big chunk of my content money.
Makes sense. I'm curious if like there's a way you could almost compartmentalize what we learn. If we're taking a course on prescript, which is heavy on the biomechanics and of things, and everything you'd learn outside of that, and at the same time is not biomechanics specific. Would that be like you think something that would be beneficial in that sense? Because I feel like I've done that as a mistake where I'm taking prescript and then I'm hopping over to the biomechanics or Connor Harris biomechanics course. I'm like, shit, I'm not even taking anything in at this point. You know what I mean?
I think what's interesting, I was talking to Phil about this, I think yesterday, was like at some point, once you get to a certain level of education or a certain level of depth on a certain topic, regardless, excuse me, regardless of who it is, everyone starts to say similar things. Like the
Hmm.
course I'm going through right now, they're talking a lot about the rib cage and the pelvis, and I'm only in the first couple of weeks, but everything they're saying is very, very similar to things I've heard from Connor Harris or from Bill Hartman, right?
Hmm.
Very similar to the compression expansion model. Um, so they're saying it in a slightly different way, and even more simple way, which actually I like. But they're saying the same things,
Yeah.
very similar. So
Yeah, I
like,
feel that.
yeah, I think also what's helped me too, with especially right now, I'm taking two pretty in depth courses at the same time. Is they're different. They're pretty
Hmm.
different. So I think it's not as easy for me to blur the lines between the two courses. There's separation. So I'm able to
Yeah.
ingest things a bit more easily and separately.
Yeah, and I think that's like the general recommendation is like it's okay to like if you're reading two books if they're wildly different, or at least like different topics within the same kind of subject. Like if you're learning about something that's related to your job, like in this field, taking a biomechanics course, like a general biomechanics course, and taking a nutrition course, or taking a general biomechanics course and then taking a course on program design, like they're different enough where you could start to retain some of the things that you're learning. But yeah, to be like a lot of it's interesting how much is just the same concepts or very similar concepts, just packaged differently or
Mhm.
applied to a different group of people or group of athletes. Like it's basically like we're talking about the same principles and then just kind of throwing in our anecdotal experience and then here's a different course.
At this point, I think I like reading to confirm my biases. Yeah, I'm right. They sit right there. Nabil, I told just for the audience, I told everybody I was trying to derail this as much as possible. Nabil, curious to hear your like what courses or philosophies do you just not agree with? What are those things that just
Ooh.
grinds your gears, bro?
That's tough. That's tough. You might not like my answer right now because I've been trying my best over the last maybe like 6 months to really check my bias and like try to find value in almost anything. I'm not gonna say everything. In
There's
almost
just I mean, real quick, just a direct correlation between that timeline and the show timeline. I'll let you get back to what you're saying, though. I'm just pointing that out. Just throwing that out there. You can get back to what you're saying, Nabil.
um with that being said, like oh man, this is funny because I was literally right before this watching what's his name, David Weck with the Weck method,
Every
and
show,
like
he's back.
Every show
I
he's
know
back.
I know you just probably just talked about him, but he's just like he was doing this crazy. He was in a squat cage. Both ends of the squat cage, he had thick power bands. So he was in a split stance, the front foot on one, back foot on the other. Then he had two power bands hanging from attached to the top, and it would look like Circus du Soleil or whatever that is, like some acrobatics. It was crazy, and he still provided the context of like I would never tinker like this with a client. Like most of the things he's doing with his everyday people look like general, like your more typical general strength and conditioning likely, but yeah, I think stability training is something I definitely tend to struggle with in like understanding like the actual goal and like
Stability training.
yeah, or like balance training, being on BOSU balls. So like I guess that lines up with like I'm sure there's there's prob probably a place and time for everything or for most things. But
You're right. I didn't like the
um
answer.
yeah, what's I'm trying to think what else, man.
That's all right. We opened up your mind. We get it.
God, I love
I've
that
been
somehow David Weck comes up on this show like weekly, and we just get a quick dig. After I said
yeah.
something nice about him one time, and I've been walking it back ever since. For months, I've been walking that comment back.
With curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Like if David Weck and I was gonna say for some reason Appleseed, what's his name? Seaman.
Oh, Johnny
Joe.
Appleseedman.
Johnny Appleseed. With them, like if they were to just put, how they get a lot of hate, right? With whatever they get or whatever they put out. If they just put a video and no caption at all, do you think there'd be as much hate as they get? And it's literally just a video of them doing things.
No,
yeah.
Weck maybe because he's a psychopath, but Seaman probably not. Like, is he just doing quarter squats and half squats? Like, people do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's regular. I'd say that falls into the realm of regular training. Most
Yeah.
of his stuff.
Yeah, and
Sometimes he
even when
gets
he
sometimes he
I
gets a
was
little
gonna,
out there. But what were you saying?
yeah, I was gonna say even when he does like have a safety squat bar on his back, a trap bar in his hands, and is standing on something. You see that stuff on social media all the
Yeah, you
time. It's
do.
just a matter
Yeah.
of him actually trying to like convince people that this is what everyone should do. But like you've mentioned before, JT, he's trying to sell something. So
Mm. I
Yeah.
was curious. I feel like it's
That's
like
fair.
people are just hating just because of how they communicate things. But
I mean,
yeah,
the way
you're
they
right. I was
communicate it
hoping for
sucks.
a better hateful answer from you to
um,
Bill, but
one
you've
thing,
grown. I'm
one
proud of
thing,
you.
What's
one thing
what's
that
wait? What's
definitely
your? I was saying, what's your knock with stability training?
I think we've talked about this before. But I think sometimes people have a misunderstanding of what stability is. Like
Mm.
you know, what I've learned recently in like courses I've taken is like putting a definition to it, stability is the ability to resist unwanted movement.
Hmm.
But it's like, but then again, a lot of times when it comes to crazy balance training, it's usually like a pretty well-known coach having like elite athletes doing some kind of crazy movement. It's
Yeah.
just hard to see how that transfers over to sport, especially like when we're never on anything unstable. Like we're on
Mm-hmm.
solid ground all the time. So
Yeah.
like again, like if we think about like specificity, like okay, getting good at standing on something unstable will get you good at standing on something unstable, but you're not standing on something unstable. You're always on
Yeah.
something solid.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That kind of doesn't click for me. I also don't know
Yeah.
everything, so
No, that's a fair call. I think stability is like poorly defined in the field. It's one of those ambiguous catch-all terms, right? That it's like I'm just training stability, and like for whatever reason, it's never like questioned further, or it never seems to be questioned further. Like, oh, I'm doing this for core stability, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, let's move on to the next thing, and it's like, hold up, like, what does that even mean? Like, what are we even doing with that? Like, for what? To what end? Like, you talking about like specificity. I think about the old like Alvin Kamara videos when he had like the multiple bands and like someone's throwing shit at him and it's just out of control. Like, how does that make you a better running back in any way, shape, or form? Like, it doesn't. Um, so like better define. I like resisting unwanted movement or like resisting external force. Like, even if it's not everyone's definition, like even if there's no field defined definition, I think like if you have an individual definition, then okay, hey, here's where this falls into, or like when I might use this tool. Because you said like
There is a field defined or definition, isn't there,
I
of what
don't,
stability is?
maybe in the literature,
Yeah.
but I don't think so. I
Hmm.
don't think there's one. I don't think there's one agreed upon definition. Like I think it's likely variations of a similar thing, but I don't
Yeah.
know if there's like one agreed upon. Like you look at like the NSCA, you look at the ACSM, you look at NASM, you look at all these bodies. I wonder what like ACE, like the American Council on Exercise, I think is what ACE is. Like I wonder what their definition of stability is. It's probably really bad. Like it's probably different from the NSCA's. You know what I mean? And
Good
that's
point.
also like one of the good and bad things about the field is like there's so many certifying bodies. So it's like not one monopoly telling everyone what to do, but also it makes stuff bad confusing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
I
Well,
think
what you got?
I was gonna say I feel like another piece to like the whole stability and balance trade is like people trying to make things harder for the sake of making them harder or feel more difficult. Right? Like I heard a coach. I was another podcast. I heard a coach say something like, "Our industry is plagued by like the the idea of I think like something along the lines of I'm paraphrasing lack of intensity, but like just a ton of volume. So people
Mm,
do a lot of stuff, and it might feel
hmm
hard, but like it's not intense in the way it needs to be stimulative to like for adaptation.
No, that's fair. I want to argue with like because I agree, and want to hear your thoughts. Like in the sense of, I think we were talking about this the other week. Feel like in the grand scheme of things, I think that's probably better. It's probably doing better than or more good than harm in that sense. Like, um, I feel like a lot of those arguments are coming from a place of like trying to be right as opposed to like trying to help people. I don't know. That's where I hear a lot, or that's how I perceive a lot of the information that's coming out when that's being said. You know?
JJ, I think you're seeing too good in people. Got to be more cynical. Gotta be more of a hater. I don't know. I feel like I don't know, Nabil. Like, so we're talking like let's say I'm trying to think of like like a boot camp style class, right? Let's say like Orange Theory, right, where it's like your Orange Theory in 5 days per week, and that's generally just volume.
Hmm.
Like it's not really undulating the intensity like they think it is or say it is. Like it's generally just volume, like a more volume based approach. I don't know if it's doing more good than like I don't know how I feel about that, JT. If it's doing more good than harm, because I think like there definitely is a massive downside of that where you're just like not getting better at anything, but also like you're moving, and that's good. Like that's generally good for health and wellness. So I don't know, Nabil, what are you thinking?
Um, yeah, I mean, like, I think if at the very least there's like a null effect, right? Like,
Mm,
if you're not really trying to do anything impressive or even cool, like you don't need to like do anything that hard. So like, or be that specific with what you're doing. Again, if your goals are to be generally healthy, and
yeah,
I even say this straight to my clients. I'm like, you're surprised how little it takes to be generally healthy, right?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
basically not have like you go to the doctor and they say you're healthy. It doesn't take that much. You probably don't even need to be in here that much, right? You probably just need to generally move and eat healthy.
yeah.
So, if that's what people like, they want to go to Barry's boot camp or Orange State, whatever the places are, and kind of just like get ran into the ground for 3 4 weeks until they like burn out or get hurt, and then just completely, continue to repeat that cycle. And do you? But like my issue is where people start to, come with the idea of like I want to do this specific thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'll have this specific goal. I want to, get better at powerlifting. I want to, put on 10 pounds of muscle or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the approach is just super general and super varied. And like, that's just when it's like the, the entities or the coaches that preach this can do all of that. Like, this varied approach is just high intensity, same level all the time can help you achieve those goals. That's where I get an issue because that's not necessarily true.
That's fair. I think the reason I say that is because like we speak the value of programming and the intensities and understanding the variables within that. I think my issue now is like the communication and it's where it's directed to. I think it's too broad to where like it should be directed to the coaches. Like if it
Mm,
you don't mix up that message to the people actually trying to get after it, like they're
Mm-hmm.
there because they need help. But if we like we're trying to communicate the message of understanding that intensities are important, it should be directed to the people who can control it for the most
Yeah.
part, and then communicating to the everybody else with the that's taking the class, like in a way where like you're doing the right things. Let's just make sure those right things are you know better.
yeah.
So just a thought. I feel like it's more of like I feel like everybody's just trying to be right in the field where being right is like I don't know. It's kind of weird to me if you're not really trying to help people. Like right as
Hmm.
in I don't know. It's just something I've been observing, but in that lens of Gen Pop and you mentioned athletes, the Bill, as a coach, what are your thoughts between I mean just even saying those two things like Gen Pop athletes and you train both of them. What comes to mind when like how you're speaking to them, how you're delivering programming? Like, what are initial thoughts for you to really understand?
Yeah. And I think when it comes down to programming, like there are certain elements that are going to be similar across the board. I think the where those elements land on the spectrum might be in a different spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, maybe maybe I'll have a recreational basketball player that wants to increase their vertical jump. They might be doing trap bar deadlifts, and then Sally, who just wants to get a little bit stronger and be generally healthy, is also doing trap bar deadlifts. But with Sally, we're just because of her training age, we're just focused on some simpler linear progression. Um, you know, focusing on good technique, maybe hitting a certain RPE just to make sure it's challenging and stimulative, and then maybe with the rec basketball player, we're doing some velocity based training, right, to make sure he's moving or he's on the like that force velocity curve at the spot we want him to be, so it transfers over or gives him the quality he needs to be good at their sport. Um, so, and as far as communication goes, I think it just depends on what they're trying to do, right? Odds are, like with a Gen Pop client, my communication might be a bit more simple, maybe not as in depth, unless they inquire about it. With an athlete, I think, or anyone who just wants to be athletic or has athletic type goals, I do find sometimes it helps with a bit of buy-in if they have a bit more understanding of like what's going on, so they know exactly how it's going to benefit them for the thing they want to do. Because they don't care about being good in the weight room; they care about being better at their sport.
Yeah.
Or at least I need to help them think that way. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Is that how you would define an athlete? Like how, if you were to put a definition to it, like what makes an athlete an athlete? What makes gem pop? Like where would you draw that line?
Yeah, if I wanted to be super definitive, I'd just say like an athlete is likely someone who plays organized sport and in some fashion gets compensated for it. An athlete, like to be labeled an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Gen Pop is anyone who just exists outside of that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can play sports, but if you just do it for fun, then you're Gen Pop. Like, if we had to super definitive, but like again, like if you want to be good at basketball, whether you're a pro athlete or you're just playing a few nights pickup a week or a couple nights a week, like qualities are qualities, right? You
Yeah.
might not need your the strength qualities you need as like a Gen Pop who does play basketball or or soccer, whatever, or tennis, might not need to be to this to the same level, and obviously couldn't be to the same level as like a professional athlete, but like those qualities likely still need to be or should be present,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Speed, strength, power.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think it's a fair delineation. I'm just curious because I think it's easy. Again, another ambiguous term, like what makes an athlete, what makes gem pop, and I like that you brought up like gem pop with athletic goals. Like I don't know how y'all feel, but I feel like people like tend to look down on that a little bit. Like coaches are like look down on that and not want to train people towards that goal. But I'm kind of like on the other side of that fence. Like most people's goals suck. So it's like when someone comes in, they're like, "Yo, I want to be able to dunk a basketball." I'm like, "Hell yeah, that's a very specific goal. This is great. We can." Versus like, I just want to like, I don't know, I want to look good. What does that mean? Like, oh, how do we know when we've objectively reached that point? I know when you've objectively dunked the basketball. Like, this is great. We have something objective to shoot for, to train for. So I like welcome that even more because then it makes training towards a specific end like that much more quantifiable.
No, I think if you look down on a goal, I think it's just bad goal setting skills or like understanding the goal for that
Mm.
person.
You're saying like
Um,
from a coach?
mhm. Yeah, like why would you? I don't know. I haven't met anybody to look down on somebody wanting to have athletic pursuits, but I like what you mentioned, the bill, like because something I went through early on for me, I would have people come to me and I train them on the things that I want to train them on, and I tell them why this is important. Versus what you say, these are what we're doing because, and let me show you why it's important to you. I think there's that's a big of
Mm.
world of a difference in terms of like how you train somebody. I think that the often the mistake coming in out of school, you're like, oh shit, I got all this my bag. I got these exercises down. I know why things are the way things are the way they are. So I'm gonna tell you, and I think that's where like it's really hard to really distinguish. Now flipping that side of the coin of like the art of communication, right? The art of coaching. How does this apply to this person in front of us? Which is hard. It's not really taught in school, at least in school I'm in. But yeah, I think goal setting is one of those things, right? Like I think we need to be better about goals. I will bet $100 plus for every client people have, every client that somebody has that body composition is like the very surface level of what they want to do. Like they'll probably tell you that, but I think
Mm.
what they actually want to do is a lot more important than that. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts
Yeah, I'd say
from a Gen Pop?
generally, yeah, that's the goal. But also like, and it probably is something a layer deeper. and they might not know what it is. And I think, again, like talking about the coach and communication, it's on us to help them get to that. Like that's literally our job, is to help them find a goal.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's wrong to work obviously with them to give them a goal. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we've been training for 6 months. You're having fun. Like, screw it. Let's PR our deadlift. And not saying that you like send their training and treat them like a professional powerlifter to the point where like they can't walk around because they're so sore from their training and it's like impacting their life and their work negatively. But it's like let's train deadlift a little bit more hard, or train deadlift a little bit more specifically, a little bit harder, spend a little bit more time there, maybe less time on other stuff, and get better at it. And
Yeah.
then we could do something else. Like I think that's something like we talk about how we can get better as coaches generally across the board, is like figure out what the deeper layer of their goal is, and then don't be afraid to like let's pick something you like to do and make that a goal.
Yeah.
Right. And
That's what I
chase
mean. I
that
think
down.
we don't do a good job with going there. Like I think
Yeah.
the bad job of what I meant of goal setting is like you stop at whatever they say from the first session. Like if they say, "Hey, I just want I want to look good," and then that's the whole relationship you have. I think you can do a better job with coaching them. Actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, 1000%.
I appreciate you guys saying that, because literally that process happened with two of my clients. They came to me like not really a ton of goals. One was like, I want to put a little bit muscle on, but and another one was like, I just know this is good for me, so let's do it. One of them loves playing volleyball competitively, like through a rec league, and another one does MMA a ton. So after a few weeks, after like maybe 6-8 weeks of training, just talking him through things, I'm like, hey, like you seem to really like this. Like, what if we can do things in here that can help still get you to your body composition goals? Because at the end of the day, that's just moving and eating well. And then
Yeah.
again, on paper very simple, in practice maybe a little more complicated, but for different people. But we can still check these boxes, but how about we look into trying to check some of these, like and they're like, yeah, like what if you could jump a bit higher so you can spike the ball a bit better over the net? Like, would that be cool? That sounds awesome. Like, what if you could uh get some feel like you could rotate better and faster, right, to throw a better jab, hook, kick, whatever it may be for Muay Thai. So that allowed me to figure out how to solve harder problems, because that's more fun and mentally stimulating,
Mm-hmm.
but also still give them what they want and then some of what they need. So um, yeah.
So I like the problem solving piece, because I think a lot of coaches would be like, the Gen Pop's boring. Like that's something I hear a ton, right? Programming for Gen Pop's boring, or whatever. Personal training's boring. But it's like, bro, you're just giving them 4x10 everything. And like, yes, that's going to help. Like if someone's coming from zero, or very minimal training, to they're goblet squatting, they're deadlifting, they're doing upper pushing and pulling, they're going to get better. They're going to get stronger. Their body composition is going to start to change. They're going to get fitter. They're going to start to feel better. But like, is that the answer forever for everybody? Like probably not. Like let's put in the work to go a layer deeper, and then find, like JT, like you're saying, find the real problem, find the real root of what they want or what they like, and now solve that problem, which is going to be a little bit more challenging, rather than just like treating everyone like, yep, you want body comp, cool. Here's the 4x10 body comp program. We're all getting the same stuff, and I'm just gonna progress you linearly forever, and you're never gonna leave me.
And
Oh man, I have a lot of thoughts from there. Go ahead, Nabil.
no, I want to hear you. I want to hear you. Let's go.
With
JT's turned up.
going back to like, why do you think we say that? Like, Gen Pop's boring. X, Y, and Z is boring.
Because there's no photographers in a Gen Pop gym, but there's photographers in gyms with athletes.
Shit, I hope that's not the case.
I was gonna say, do not get JT started on his social media rant.
We're not getting started. We're not going to do social media rant. Not on the, we already hit whack. We can't play all the hits. We can't play all the hits on this episode. Nabil,
I
what do you
think
think?
I think what Phil says is definitely part of it. Like for me personally, again, it just comes down to like being like mentally stimulated. Like when I encounter a problem that I may not have all the skills to solve, then it's like, oh, that's an opportunity for growth. That's an opportunity to like make me think hard and make me feel like I'm doing something. Versus like again, it's not if you just want to gain a little bit of muscle, gain a little bit of strength, lose a little fat, that's awesome. It's
Mhm.
not that that is bad. And it's not that it's even bad that like coaches don't want to learn more because they have the skills to do that, to help people with those goals. That's
Yeah.
not bad either. For me, that's not enough.
Yeah.
What's not enough?
I just just helping people with those more simple problems to solve and just being okay with having the skills and to solve those problems and not wanting to improve them to solve harder problems, right? Like
You want to solve harder problems. You're saying
yeah,
to
exactly. I
be
mean, like what?
stimulated.
Yeah, exactly. Like what would be harder? Helping someone who's never trained before gain a few pounds of muscle and put 30 pounds on their squat, or like get a person who's been training for 15 years who was a collegiate athlete, right, at a D1 school, who so at high training age, sports history, probably pretty strong already, and they're like, I want to jump higher. Well, then
Yeah.
you have to figure out, okay, what do they need? Do they need more strength? Do they need more elastic capabilities? Like, there's
I
more
would
variables.
argue with it's harder on both ends. Like I think it's just a matter of like which ones I think you're interested in. Because I would argue with the person that has not worked out before, which I have some people I'm working with. Like they're very deconditioned, and I think the hard part there is understanding the psychological aspect of like why they haven't worked out before, and then getting them to do things and
Yeah.
behaviorally speaking, that's like another challenge. Not say it's easier or harder. It's just like another aspect that for me is harder. Like
Mm,
shit,
no, that's
I'm,
fair.
I
It's
think
different.
it's different. It's different,
Different.
and
It's different challenges. Yeah, it's just different. Like so, Nabil, you're looking for more of like when you say challenge, it sounds like you're talking about like a
Like
challenge that's solved
physiological
through
adaptations.
yeah, like so solved
sure,
through programming, solved through what we do versus like I'm just trying to get this person to eat a damn vegetable. This is how do I make it enticing for them to train three
right.
times a week, whatever. Like,
Which in
is that what
itself
you're?
is pretty tough, and
Yeah,
I think it's just a conversation to be had for and hopefully coaches can ask that question more to them because to understand what is actually boring will give you the answers to not make it boring, right? For
yeah,
me, it's like I don't know, it's um, there's a lot of just things to understand within this field where like I don't know, I can't be bored with this because I know I don't know a lot of this shit. I thought I helped people before, but like shit, I could do the same things, but I probably can't because this is a way different human being. So, um, with with that being said, Nabil, with I know you're doing your online training stuff. Is that a new like? Is that part of the challenge that you're trying to take on?
I mean, it's definitely a challenge because it's not just about training anymore. It's about learning about business, marketing, like sales, all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. And that's pretty daunting because that's just a whole nother field in itself. Um, so is it because I want another challenge? Yeah, maybe it's stimulating. It's cool to learn about other things, but
mm,
I mean, it's more so just like trying to provide more opportunity and growth for myself, really, within our
mm.
within our field and like as a coach. Because again, I want to be in this game for a long time. And generally, if you want to be doing something for a while, it makes it a lot easier to do it for a while if you can make some money, make a living.
That's a fair point. Like God, so business, marketing, sales, right? Everything that falls under that general umbrella. Y'all think that should that be a part of undergrad strength and conditioning?
I would probably say yes because I mean, dude, half the people I went to school with ended up being personal trainers.
Yeah, Yeah.
as far as the people in my degree. So like the other half, they were in there because they either couldn't get into the nursing program and they needed to wait till the next round, or they were planning to go to physical therapy school or
Yeah.
PA school or even med school. So
Yeah. Because I just think about like, and I can't speak to other industries, so I'm I don't know anything about like business majors and finance majors and communications majors, but I just think about the churn in our industry, like just from personal experience. So, like, how many coaches go through a strength conditioning, a kinesiology, an X phys undergrad, and then like make it into the field? We could talk about staying in the field for a full career in a second, but like, how many just dip out and go to medical device sales and go to whatever else business administration type stuff that they can do, real estate, whatever, and just
Yeah.
totally bounce? And like, how many would potentially be saved or helped a ton if we had some sort of mandatory like business, marketing, communication, sales type? And I know like you can only teach so much in undergrad, that was one for me, like coming out and then immediately going into the private sector and like working across the gyms, working for myself, working as a strength and conditioning coach, and being like, I don't know how to do pricing. I don't know how to do my taxes. That's probably a personal problem. I don't know. I don't know how to sell to anybody. Like, I feel like there was so like I didn't have any skills, but I knew what the Krebs cycle was. And it was like, I'm not prepared for this shit at all.
I think the bigger problem there is like the fact that there's still an undergrad strength and conditioning program. I feel like it just needs to be like any other trade school where it's specific to that industry, in my
Mm,
opinion, right?
yeah.
And I think unfortunately we might not get there that soon because like schools that you want to do strength and conditioning at, make sure that you have that accreditation under that school. So I think it's more of
Yeah.
like, yes, to answer your question, I think it should be on there. And like having worked at a commercial gym myself, that's why people dip every 3 months, 6 months. Is like I know training, but I don't know how to sell. Okay, now I'm hating this job, and I'm training people that make six figures, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna do that instead. you know, so you kind of get burnt out and be placed in an unsuccessful position to start. You know,
Yeah. Is that so for me, like sales, I still to this day like have trouble talking about it. Like
yeah,
I'll talk with coaches that I work with and they'll be like, bro, what do you charge? Like if someone came to you and train, I'll tell them and they'll be like, what are you doing, bro? Like what are you like, you gotta raise your rates. What the hell are you
right,
doing?
yeah,
But I just I feel so like gross having that sales conversation. Like I feel like a used car salesman, even though I genuinely know I could
yeah.
help this person in front of me. Was that something that y'all had to deal with? Like getting comfortable?
I think for for me, I always just like looked at what people were doing around me, and
Mm,
then like looked how and like did my best to like determine how good they were,
mm,
and then use that information to help base my prices and services on that. So again, like to be frank, like you guys are probably better than most coaches in your area, if not all. So like, and there are some really bad coaches who charge $200 an hour. Just think
yeah,
about that. That's
yeah.
all I had to think about to be like, oh, I'm charging more. Like I've been to like I've worked at Equinox, and like there are dudes who are making 150. They're working a lot, like 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, but they're making 150, 80K a year, and they're bad. They're not good. So it's like that gives me a bit more confidence, I suppose, in like
Mm,
charging a bit more. But also, it's like I want to make sure I provide value to people, so that also makes it nerve wracking to like, okay, I don't want to charge too much because I don't know if I can provide that value. But at the end of the day, you gotta. Can I curse on here?
yeah. What?
You gotta fuck around and find out. So it's like, just choose a price, charge it, see what happens, and then adjust from there. Because like, it's a work in progress, especially when you're just starting out.
Oh, I'm glad you went here. Maybe we deserve another episode based off of this because it's something I I've dealt with, working at 24, and I felt like that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm charging you $60 to work with me. Like what? Looking back, I'm like, why did I feel like that? And I think
Right?
there's a lot of skills within that. Like coaches need to understand. Like even if you're in an environment that you don't technically have to sell your stuff, I think
Yep.
understanding what the word selling is will help you get out of that mentality of like, because if you say I don't like selling, you won't like selling. At the end of
Mm.
the day, like, and that goes back to selling your idea, selling your brand, selling all these things, and it's just a way to communicate. So for me, it's when I think about going to a doctor or a PT office, um, there's a rate. It's just the rate,
Mm.
right? And that's what it is. I don't know, $500, whatever. Like you don't question it, and you pay it. Insurance does. You pay the deductible, whatever it is. And there's certainly differences between that, but I think the hard part in my opinion, that coaches really struggle with is understanding like the we tend to blend the friendship and business relationship a little too much, where it
Mm.
feels like you're charging your friend to work out with you, but it's like that's not why they came to you anyway. So I think we need to do a better job with understanding with that the value that you bring is the value that you bring. And I think one more thing before you go, like we compare our wallet to theirs too much. Like you don't know what they make. You don't know. You have no idea what the heck they have. Like it doesn't matter either, right? I think that also makes us like feel bad. Like should I charge this or should I like just have a rate, and then from there you charge it. This is your job. This is your
Yep.
business, right? And easier said than done. But I think all these things, conversations in our head, were like, how much do they make? What kind of job do they have? Like, you don't know. Don't stop guessing. Like just what's your value? Charge it and go from there. You know what I mean?
I think real quick, you speaking on values, like if we don't value ourselves as professionals and as coaches, no one else is going to.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. So if you don't think you're worth anything, why should anyone else?
Mhm.
And like our industry is already undervalued. Training, general health and fitness is already undervalued. So there's this constant cycle of questioning already. Like if we could do our best to not question ourselves, that's probably a good place to start. So just get better at just become a better coach so that you don't have to question. That's one thing you don't have to question anymore. And it'll be easier to make your prices.
Yeah.
That's the absolute bar.
Let's flip that. And
Flip it.
I always tell everybody this, like that ask me to train, like we have so much information. I can go through you right now on YouTube. I can give you the apps that give you the answers that I'll probably give you. What do you need from me?
Mm.
And it's almost like they're selling themselves to you in a sense where you kind of want to understand that. You don't want to give them stuff that they realize they could have done that themselves. you know, and that's not going to make anybody better. But I think there's a lot of things to that. Going back to what you said, Phil, like there's just stuff, opportunities, I guess, within like where we are to help coaches be better coaches that want to be coaches for a long time. Selling one of them.
Yeah. Like, how do you think? You talk about being a coach for a long time. You talk about being a career coach, and I think that's like a thought I have, and like I don't know if I'm gonna be a career coach. Coach. I guess technically I'm not a career coach right now because I'm not like coaching day to day right now. But like, or even just like staying in the field for your full career. Like, how is that like a real tangible possibility for a lot of people? Like, how do y'all think like people can solidify themselves in this field for a full like lifelong career?
Mm.
I know it's like a loaded question.
I think there needs to be more growth and evolution in general. I know that's very vague, but like I mean, how many routes are there to go when it comes to training right now? Like you either become a
Yeah.
personal trainer, maybe you're working in a big box gym, maybe you're kind of doing what we're doing, maybe in like more corporate, a little bit more private side,
Hmm.
or you go the traditional S&C route, right? Call undergrad, masters, graduate assistantship, internship, blah blah blah. Or nowadays, you have the whole private sector where you have facilities, I suppose, like Exos, like House of Athlete, like Collective, where maybe even P3 can be mixed in there, but there's like
Mm-hmm.
super private. Um, where like you can, it's almost like a mixture there, right? A lot of the P3 is not a mixture. I don't think. I think that you have to be an active athlete to train there, but a lot
Yeah.
of these places like there's a combo. Like there may be some gen pop, but there's also a system for like athletes, and generally in these places, if I'm not mistaken, the athletes come to you. So
Yeah.
that's like another route. So that being said, that's what 3 avenues I just mentioned, I suppose.
Yeah.
You're getting me fired up, Phil. I don't know. I don't know if we should go here.
Go off.
Send
I
Go
don't
it,
know.
off,
send
JT.
it.
Go off.
I think first things first, like you just need to have intrinsic motivation, like to even do the things that you're doing. Like you have to want to learn. You have to like the grind. You like I don't know, it might be a little trite to say that, but like you have to because you will. Because if the only thing that you have that you're working towards is money, which it should be, I'll get there, Phil. I hear you.
I was gonna say no. I was gonna say
Like
it.
if that's the one goal you have, you're you're gonna fizzle out. Because tell you what, it's
Hmm?
not an engineer salary, and hopefully somebody didn't lie to you going into that. Um, but regardless, like I think liking the goal or liking the grind and understanding the enjoyment of learning is like prereqs to have this a lifelong career. And then from
Yeah.
there, what everybody has different lifestyles and whatnot. It's just a matter of like the things that you do as a coach might differ. Like if you have 5 kids or whatever, and you can't be out there in the field 8 hours a day, coaching, just because you don't want to. I don't know, stuff like that. You have to think about now. What are the other branches of within coaching
Mm-hmm.
that you'd like to grind in that that motivates you that you'd have to explore. Money is important. I hear you, Phil.
I was gonna say something about bread, bro. You know, I was gonna say something about bread because, like, I mean, it's hard not to compare yourself to you come out of college, you compare your starting salary if you even like are lucky enough to get a starting salary in this field somewhere
Sure.
to your friend's starting salary. Like one of my best friends was I can't remember what company he was working for, but he was an engineer and like a damn good engineer. His starting salary was like 150K or 130K, and my starting salary didn't exist because I was running around hustling personal training and working multiple classes and just like you talk about value, and it'll never be that. Like frankly, and that's okay. Like our starting salaries will never be that. Our salaries will never be as high as some other industries. But how could they be across the board higher? Right, in line with the value that we provide. When you think about like I don't want to say prehab or taking an approach to medicine that's like, hey, if we can be healthier as we age, then we won't need we won't be as sick as we're 60, 70, 80, right? Because I've done these things earlier in life. But is it through value and trying to generally raise the value, trying to generally raise the quality of the coaches in the field? Like I don't know what that answer is. But I think like that would keep people in the field, um, and potentially raise the quality of the field as a whole. So I know a
Well,
lot of good coaches who care who just left because of money.
and I think it's that lack of the selling skills. I would guess, that
Yeah.
they just lack there, and we don't really know the answer, but I want to put a cap there. I think there is a certain industry cap that we see, but I think um, we shouldn't see that as your specific cap. Like you got
Mm.
Stu McGill out there charging people $800 to do some cat cows. Like, come on.
Not a Stu McGill
You know
shot.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Go
Oh,
off.
but
JT.
he has all of this stuff that he's done to where he can do that, and he's actually providing value, right? So I think it's just a matter of like, do you want to be in this field for the right reasons? I think it starts there, right? And then within the field, there's just so many branches, bro. Like mental performance, all these things that you can expand to. I wouldn't limit yourself to be on the training floor, because if that's what you're going to limit to, that's what you're going to limit to. You know.
I just need 3 sets of bird dogs, curl up, and side plank. So that'll be $1,000, guys. Both from each. If you could just hit my
That's
Venmo, you got
crazy.
it. Just let me know. You're good to go.
Oh man.
Oh my goodness. Well, damn, Nabil. Listen, best friend of the show. We got to get you a best friend of the show T-shirt.
Hey,
Appreciate you for coming on and conversing with us. For the folks listening, I hope this was valuable. I hope you have fun listening. Nabil, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you?
um, appreciate you guys. This was fun. Instagram. Instagram's the easiest place. Handle is Coach Levant. Levant. That's the best place. Link on their website if you ever want to check out some more information. But yeah, that's the best spot to hit me up.
Love it. We'll link all your stuff in the show notes. We'll be posting your stuff on IG for sure. JT, where can people find you?
Hit me on Threads. Let's just go there. Let's chat. Obviously, you can hear my mind right here, CoachJT.mp3. And by the way, we didn't really go into as much the coaching business online coaching business as we wanted, so we might have a part 2 here. But check out Nabil's stuff. He got some good, good
Good stuff.
content and good ways to really think about online training. And like, I suck at it. Like, I'm not that good, so I'm learning a lot from
Same.
Nabil, and I think a lot of coaches are trying to go that route as well. So, part 2, let's get it.
Yeah, might have to have Nabil on like quarterly or biannually or something, just to come and kick it. But you can find me on IG at Nashville. I've given up on Threads. You go to Threads for JT. You can find the show on IG, Threads, and YouTube at Pushin Performance. No G, as always. If you like the show some love. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a little rating. Share it with a friend who you can think level up from listening to the show. And we'll catch you all next time. Nabil, thank you.